In this section, we're going to talk about the visitor pattern. This pattern allows us to add new operations to an object structure without modifying it. Let's talk about it using a real example. So here I've opened VS Code, which is a very popular code editor. Chances are you have already used it before. Here we have a very basic HTML document with two nodes, a heading node, and below that we have an anchor node, which is a link with this text, click me. When we click this link, this is going to take us to this address. Let's say we're going to build an HTML editor like this. So in our project, let's add a new package called visitor. In this package, we add a new interface called HTML node. We could also use an abstract class if we wanted to share some common behavior across different types of nodes. But for now, let's not worry about it. So let's add a couple of node types. Here we add a new class called heading node that implements the HTML node interface. Let's add another class called anchor node. And anchor is a hyperlink. This class should also implement the HTML node interface. Now, currently we don't have anything in this interface, but soon we're going to introduce a few operations in this interface. Now, let's add a new class called HTML document. This HTML document should have a bunch of nodes. So here we declare a private field of type list of HTML node. Let's import the list. We call this nodes and set it to a new array list. We also need a method for adding a new node to this document. So add, which takes an HTML node. And here we call nodes that add node. Pretty straightforward. Now let's use all these classes together. So we go to our main class. Here we create an HTML document, new HTML document. As you can see, we have a few different HTML document implementations. We're going to use the one that is declared in the visitor package. Now let's add a couple of nodes. So add a new heading node followed by an anchor node. Now, let's say we want to implement syntax highlighting in our HTML document. So in VS Code and pretty much every editor out there, we have this feature called syntax highlighting. Certain words are highlighted in different colors. So back to our HTML node interface, let's add a new method here called highlight. Now we should implement this method in all our concrete node classes. So we go to our anchor node and implement this interface. Here we want to print a message like highlight anchor. We don't want to worry about the algorithm for highlighting nodes. Similarly, let's go to our heading node class and implement this new method. Here we want to print highlight heading. Now that each node knows how to highlight itself, we can go to our HTML document class and introduce a new method here called highlight. Here we're going to iterate over our list of nodes and ask each node to highlight itself. So that is pretty simple. It's our polymorphism principle. For each node in nodes, we call node.highlight. With this, we can go back to our main class and call document.highlight. Let's run the program and make sure everything is working. All right. So we have two messages, highlight heading and highlight anchor. Beautiful. Now, let's say tomorrow we want to introduce a new operation in this object structure. Perhaps we want to convert an HTML document to plain text. We only want to extract the text inside this document. We want to get rid of all these tags. Once again, we have to go back to our HTML node interface and introduce a new method like string plain text. And then we have to implement this method in our entire object structure. We have to implement it in every class that implements the HTML node interface, as well as our HTML document class. So similar to the highlight method, we have to add a method called plain text. In that method, we have to iterate over all the nodes in this document. And for each node, we have to call its plain text method. This violates the open-close principle because every time we want to introduce a new operation, we have to change every type in our object structure. This is the problem that the visitor pattern tries to solve. It allows us to add new operations to an object structure without modifying it. We'll look at how it works in the next video.